Over 27,000 Ukrainian troops are currently being encircled in Kupyansk and Pokrovsk. So yesterday, I reported it here that Kupyansk is on the blink of encirclement. And 3 days ago, I reported it here too that Russia has encircled Pokrovsk completely. Well, it is now official that Kupyansk is now being encircled. Vladimir Putin released a statement. He asked Ukraine to make a decision within the space of 24 to 48 hours. He needs a response from them. Or, you know what will happen? They will annihilate all these Ukrainian troops. So out of humanitarian gesture, Putin is asking them to surrender unconditionally. Ukraine and the West currently find themselves in a very tough position. So over 27,000 people trapped, over 100 armored vehicles and over 226 infantry fighting vehicles are currently being trapped in Pokrovsk and Kupyansk. The West and Ukraine is in a tough position. Well, this unconditional surrender comes with terms and conditions. Back in 2014 in Crimea, this was the same situation that the Ukrainian armed forces find themselves. They were trapped. Russian forces trapped them, and well, they decided to surrender back in 2014, and that was when Russia forced them to sign the Minsk I agreement. Then they later started violating it, right? Back in Mariupol. I don't know how many of you started following the war from day one, but back in 2022 in Azovstal, the same situation happened again. Ukrainian troops in Azovstal, the SS battalion, surrounded, whether they like it or not. This is the situation that is currently on board, and I believe that they are going to surrender. Well, as I said earlier on, it comes with terms and conditions. So they have to do something in return in order for the Russians to leave them completely. In the Pokrovsk situation, I gave you guys an example of what happened in Stalingrad under General Zhukov. When Zhukov returned back from Siberia with fresh troops, the Nazis refused to surrender. The Russians surrounded them, and Adolf Hitler refused to surrender. He told them to fight till the last Nazi. But at long last, they had no option than to surrender. You know, the Nazis airlifted equipments and food. They drop it inside Stalingrad in the cauldron for Nazi troops. But even with that, they couldn't hold on. So the situation currently in Pokrovsk and in Kupyansk, whether the Ukrainians like it or not, they will surrender unconditionally. I strongly believe that Putin don't want to annihilate these guys. That is why he's giving the Ukrainian authorities 48, in between 24 to 48 hours to make a decision. Right? We pray that they make a reasonable decision. Note, some of these guys are breadwinners for their families. Note, they also have parents just like we all do. Some of them have kids. They have families who look up to them. So, the most reasonable decision that the Kiev regime can make now is to surrender unconditionally. That makes perfect sense. You don't allow them to annihilate all these guys. And to be honest with you, I believe Putin is not interested in annihilating these guys. If he was interested, he wouldn't have asked them to make a decision. He would have gone ahead to annihilate these guys, just like what happened in Kursk. In the Kursk situation, I believe Putin was angry. You know, a lot of Ukrainian troops were trapped, and they didn't give them this opportunity. No, most of them were annihilated. But in this case, Putin is giving them an ultimatum. Is giving them an opportunity to leave these guys so they should make a reasonable, or whatever Putin is asking for. I think it is reasonable. They have to come out with a decision. We are all waiting for what Zelensky will say. In the other hand, I believe Putin is also trying to send a message to the whole world. In case Russia ends up annihilating these guys, they want the whole world to know that, look, we gave these guys an opportunity to lay down their arms, but their government decided to send them to the slaughterhouse. That is what I see happening here. So Putin wants the whole world to know the situation on the ground. Remember in my Pokrovsk update, I told you guys that we are going to see more and more of these surrender in the coming days, because where the Russian army has currently gotten to with the introduction of new weapons. Ukraine is currently exhausted. The West is currently exhausted. And we have a president in America who is not ready to give these Ukrainians free weapons. So whatever the Ukrainians are currently using now, that is all what they have left in their arsenals. And sooner or later, they are going to run out of ammo. And there's currently reports coming out of Ukraine that in 2027, by 2026, by 2026, Ukraine will have no money for the military. Ukraine economy will collapse if the West and Uncle Sam don't step in to support them financially. This is a big problem for the Ukrainians. And to make matters worse for them, the Russian economy is growing. All this talks about sanctioning Russia left, right, center. It is not working. Russia continue to get more and more weapons. They continue to make more and more money. Well, you guys keep telling me that I should leave the bears alone. You guys said they make the video more interesting, so I've left them alone. They should continue making their own noise. Well, don't forget to hit on the like button. It's very, very important to me. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. Despite all these challenges that Ukraine is currently going through, we all know that the most weapons used in this war are drones. Now, according to Germany sources, China is trying to prevent Ukraine from buying drone components. Well, they continue to tell us that China is supporting only the Russian side. I've told you guys in some of my updates that both the Russians and the Ukrainians are buying drone components from the Chinese. Now, China is trying to prevent Ukraine from buying these drone components. So, what the Ukrainians do is they use their Western allies. So, through their Western allies, they buy these drone components and assemble them in Ukraine. Now, China has found out those countries who are buying these drone components and they are giving them right away to the Ukrainians. And they are trying to prevent that from happening. So, China is now stopping the sales of all drone components to Western allies. Because of these drones, offensive has become very difficult. I remember about 2 months ago, General Zelensky spoke about this. I read an article here from General Zelensky, and he spoke about these drones, that modern warfare is completely different from back in the days, the method they used to use. And according to General Zelensky, I don't know how many of you know him. He's the former overall commander of the Ukrainian armed forces. He said drone warfare has made all forms of warfare absolutely nonsense, right? Because you have to think twice before trying to advance on the front lines. So drones are very, very crucial for the Ukrainian armed forces. One of the main reasons why this war has kept long. Drone has played a key role in this, right? So the Russians think twice before they go. So without these drones, by the way, the Chinese are selling these drones to the Russians directly because they are allies. The Chinese, I believe, they are 100% involved in this war, but just that they tell everybody that, oh, we are not involved in this war. But in reality, we can see that the Chinese are helping the Russians economically. They are helping them selling all these components that they use in their missiles. You know, we see it happening over and over again. But in the case of Ukraine, Ukraine have to buy these components through corners. And here we are, China is trying to pull themselves out of the deal. This is very, very dangerous for the Ukrainians, by the way. One of the main reasons why Donald Trump has refused to give these Ukrainians Tomahawk missiles is because I personally believe that his generals have spoken to him. That if he even sends these Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, the Russians are going to destroy them completely. Remember, Tomahawk is a slow-moving cruise missile. It doesn't really travel fast. Shooting down a Tomahawk missile is not that difficult. Well, NBC journalists and American journalists visited Moscow. And most of the weapons that NATO sent to Ukraine, well, they are now in exhibition museums. The Russians have destroyed them completely. Check it out.
I'm in Moscow, Russia in October 2025, and this is an exhibition of war trophies taken from the front line in Ukraine. An Abrams tank, again, another piece of US equipment. Inside the Bradley, it is burnt out. You shudder to think of the experience the Ukrainian soldiers would have had. Throughout the time that we've been here, classrooms of Russian children have been enjoying tours of this war museum, including this exhibition dedicated to North Korea's contribution. The war in Ukraine is becoming embedded in the culture. Every year, peace seems more difficult. These are mementos from a war, but they also come with a message. Despite the desires and exclamations from the Trump administration that there should now be an end to the killing, there is no sign that this war is about to end.
By the way, we are all waiting for the final decision of Zelensky and his government and his Western partners. Let us all wait patiently for what they will say, because they have to make a decision within the space of 24 to 48 hours. So I'll let you guys know once they come out and speak. I'll give you guys that particular update. Thank you very much once again for supporting me. Thank you for your endless support. Shalom. See you guys in the next episode.